Hi team, this is Gio. Welcome to another video for our INTERFORM Office Revit template. Today we're going to talk about our standard use of our custom electrical symbols we use on all of our projects. I'm going to go an overview generally over the main different types of families we have for that. We have a wall hosted, a ceiling hosted, a face hosted, and a tabletop hosted that I'm going to go over today, and as well as a floor hosted, I should say. So we're going to go over that, a basic overview of how they work, and then I'm going to go into separate segments on each individual family and really going into a deep dive on how those are used and all the parameters that go along with each one. Similar to the door families that I touched on in a different video, the functionality of and the use of our standard families is very similar. Once you understand how one is set up, the others, even though they're different hosting faces and they're different family types, they all kind of parametrically function very similar. So right now I'm just in the main screen of our Revit template. I'm going to go ahead to start, just to give an overview of the different types of symbols that we use. I'm going to go down to our sheets list, and if you look on sheet G1.2, abbreviation, symbols, and legends, we have, if I open up this sheet, you can see here in this column we have our electrical symbols kind of called out. It's important to know to know this for our team, to know these different symbols and understand generally what they're for, in order to provide that information on our drawings. So we keep our symbols very simple. We have simple hosted 2D symbols that are visible in plan. However, once I get into the nuances of more specifics on each of these families, I'll touch on they're actually represent themselves in 3 dimensions. But in plan, you really only see these representational symbols you can see here. So just on this legend sheet, I just want to point out a few things. So typically this is our symbol tag. So you'll see these as you place a device, one of these symbols, either on a wall or a floor or where it's going. You will see the symbol itself. So that would be representing this. Now above that, you're going to see on the symbol, there will be a dimensional call out for the finished floor height if it's a custom mounted device that's not at our standard mounting height. It will show up with a dimension similar to this. Another indicator that will show up on our symbols is beyond the symbol graphic symbol itself, you'll also get this device type indicator. Now this device type indicator usually is 1 to 3 numerical designations, and some of them you might already know. For example, GFI would be our ground fault interrupt for use at wet locations. D letter designation would equal to dedicated, so that just basically says if this symbol has a D next to it, it is a dedicated outlet to be provided a dedicated circuit for. And the last one we have here is existing to remain. Now the implication here is that if we see existing symbols on our new proposed electrical plan, that they are existing to remain. Otherwise, they would be removed from the project and you wouldn't see them show up on that sheet. So this letter indicator, though, also identifies when under parentheses, it can indicate quantity or number of inputs for a device. So for example, if you have this telephone and data receptacle, if this has parentheses 2, then that is indicating that this device in the wall, it's a single wall cover plate, but it has 2 inputs, 2 drops allocated to it as part of the specification. Or we could have something like, you could have a duplex symbol and you could have parentheses 2 to indicate that instead of showing 2 separate duplex symbols here side by side, you could show one and then indicate parentheses 2 in order to indicate the quantity of 2 duplex. So having explained that, going down further, you can see here is a list of all of our wall-mounted devices. These are devices that are meant to be installed on the wall. You can see the symbol is very simple. It doesn't have any modifications that I'll talk about with some of these other symbols going down below, but it's just basically simple and it goes right on the wall when we work with it. Starting out, we have the duplex. Duplex with USB is a combination duplex USB. It has this line slashing through it. That's what indicates that. Quadruplex, tel data has the half triangle filled, half not. Telephone receptacle simply just has the full infill, the full pochette hatch on the symbol. Data only receptacle is just blank. It doesn't, or it has no hatch inside. It's just a white, empty filled triangle, similar to the telephone and data receptacle. Audio-visual junction box. Again, this is just so you'll see that a lot of our standard intercom devices, junction box, panic button, anywhere where we're going to have just a backer box and we're going to have conduit running into it or other device requirements, usually we'll just indicate that. It'll just be the same overall symbol with this box showing, and then we indicate with a numerical or a letter indicator inside that box, what it indicates, and these correspond to these symbols. So these are already prepared in our drawings or in our template, and really you just have to select the one that you want to use and then apply it to the symbol as you place it in the plan. So that's another more of these. Key card reader is usually CR. Door release button is DR. Intercom device is ID. Junction box is just a simple J. Panic button typically is PB. If you have furniture that is being fed, if you have furniture being plugged in through direct through conduit from a wall, from a feed, we have two symbols here for wall-mounted power feed and tel data feed. So the power feed just has a P with a square, with some square graphics here. When I get down into the ceiling devices, you'll see that we have a similar power data feed. Oh, you know what? I'm not seeing it here. We'll have to touch on that. I think we might not. We have a different power and tel data feed for ceiling applications that just shows a circular geometry here that we'll get into, but this is currently what we have in the model. Floor-mounted devices here, again, we've got duplex. Typically, floor-mounted devices, the symbol shows very similar to the corresponding wall-mounted, except for you're going to see this on the floor in plan, and it has the designation for a floor device is this little dot, this little filled-in dot right below the symbol. Apart from that, the rest of the symbols are visually the same. So you can see that duplex with USB just has that strike through. And all these other symbols themselves, with the exception of the little dot showing there, should correspond graphically, visually with their wall-mounted counterparts. Table surface mounted devices. These are to be used for either installation on millwork surfaces or on tabletops. If it's a furniture item, typically we will use these. And the symbol just indicates it has this boundary over the top just to indicate it is a surface mounted device. So here's a list of those. And again, similar to the others, the symbol itself will be visually identical to other mounting applications of the same type of device. So you have the duplex with USB, quadruplex, telephone and data combination, telephone on its own, data on its own, audio-visual on its own, and push button there. Ceiling-mounted devices, we are very similar to the floor-mounted devices. The major difference graphically is, other than they host to ceilings, and we'll go over that once we go over the use of them, the symbol, again, is very similar to the floor-mounted, with the exception of, instead of this circular dot, or this circular filled dot below the symbol, we use a square filled dot below the symbol, or a square filled square below the dot for ceiling mounted devices. So that just indicates that it's on the ceiling versus on the floor. So we have that for duplex, quads, telephone and data receptacles, simple data, AV, junction box. We also have a couple of other ceiling mounted devices, wireless access point, security camera, and our ceiling mounted exit sign, which we'll go into in a different video. So that's just the basic kind of assortment of the symbols we have. And now I want to go into, in the next section, just more specifics on how to use them and each one and how it hosts. So we'll do that next.